Doctrine and Covenants 125 through 128. When Joseph and other church leaders arrived in Illinois, they began buying up hundreds of acres of land for the gathering saints. However, as those saints arrived, many of them chose to settle in Iowa, where land was cheaper. This left the church with acres of unused land and a large mortgage to pay. Joseph urged the emigrating saints to purchase lots in Nauvoo if they were able to help offset the mortgage the church had undertaken. The saints who had already settled across the river in Iowa wondered if that invitation applied to them. In March of 1841, Joseph received the revelation in Doctrine and Covenants 125, which was an answer to the inquiry of the prophet, "What is the will of the Lord concerning the saints in the territory of Iowa?" This revelation clarified that the Iowa cities of Zarahemla and Nashville were to be the principal gathering places for the Iowa saints. Joseph thus wrote a letter to the Iowa saints informing them that they should relocate to one of the approved areas as soon as they were able. The Iowa stake was renamed the Zarahemla stake, and members were urged to centralize as much as possible for spiritual strength and physical safety. While these clarifications were being made, members of the Quorum of the 12 began arriving in Nauvoo after completing 2-year missions to the British Isles. One of the Quorum members, Brigham Young, came back to find that his family had endured severe trials during his absence. They were destitute and living in a log cabin that his wife Mary Ann had built. Before Brigham's mission, he and his family had settled in abandoned military barracks in the Iowa Territory. They were in the depths of poverty when Brigham left just 10 days after his wife Mary Ann had given birth. She was now left alone with 7 children to take care of. During Brigham's absence, Mary Ann would row herself across the Mississippi River to work or obtain other necessities, even during the cold, stormy winter. The Youngs were eventually forced out of their meager home in the military barracks and took up residence in a horse stable, while Mary Ann earned money washing and sewing clothes. The following spring, she was given a lot in Nauvoo where she planted a garden. Throughout the summer, she would row across the Mississippi River to tend her garden and then row back home in the evening. And during that summer, she built her family a log cabin. Her nephew would describe the structure as only the body of a house, with blankets hung over the doors and windows. She moved her family into that home in September of 1840. These were the conditions Brigham returned home to at the beginning of July 1841. He set to work immediately, draining, fencing, and cultivating the lot, building a temporary shed for cows, a cellar, and finishing the house. A week after Brigham's return, Joseph visited the Youngs. He saw the condition of their home, evidence of the sacrifices the entire family had made over the years, and he dictated the revelation in Doctrine and Covenants 126 on the spot. In this revelation, the Youngs were told that Brigham's, and by extension Mary Ann's, offering was accepted, and he was told to stay home and take care of his family. What a relief. It was just 1 month later when unexpected news came. Governor Lilburn W. Boggs, who had caused so much harm to the saints in Missouri, had been shot while reading the newspaper in his home. Without any concrete evidence, Joseph Smith and his bodyguard, Orrin Porter Rockwell, were blamed for the attempted murder. While Orrin was arrested, Joseph went into hiding, knowing that his innocence wouldn't make any difference to the courts in Missouri. Over the following 3 months, Joseph remained in hiding. And as he hid, he wrote multiple letters to the saints, 2 of which provided clarification on the practice of baptisms for the dead. Joseph had previously taught the saints during the summer and fall of 1840 about baptisms for the dead. After learning about this ordinance at a general conference, the saints were so excited that between sessions, they rushed to the Mississippi River, where up to 10 elders were in the water at the same time, baptizing people for their deceased relatives. What the saints didn't know was the importance of keeping a record of the work they were doing. On August 31st, while Joseph was still in hiding, he appeared briefly to speak to a small gathering of Relief Society sisters and told them a new point of doctrine. All persons baptized for the dead must have a recorder present, that he may be an eyewitness to record and testify of the truth and validity of his record. The following day, Joseph began writing a letter to the church that would become Section 127. Among other things included in the letter, Joseph reiterated what he had taught the previous day. The Lord revealed that a recorder is necessary when performing baptisms for the dead, so that it might also be recorded in heaven. A week later, while still in hiding, Joseph wrote a second letter that outlined the need to call a recorder in each of Nauvoo's individual wards and a general recorder for the church. In this second letter, Joseph used phrases like binding power, welding link, and perfect union. Joseph taught the saints that through this baptismal ordinance for the dead and other future ordinances, the saints could forge a generational chain from parents to their children, just as the dispensations from Adam to the present day are connected. It was clear that while Joseph may have been in hiding, he was still fighting in the cause of Christ and calling the rest of the saints to action. He wrote, "Brethren, shall we not go on in so great a cause? Go forward and not backward. Courage, brethren, and on to the victory." And the Lord invites us to do the same, to go forward in the great work we've been called to do, no matter the obstacles that come our way. And that's what's happening in Come Follow Me this week.